Now, before I even say anything related to this weekend, quick question for you all. Do you guys remember last week? Like, I wasn't lying when I said that these sort of weekends can be forgotten about in like 5 minutes, since what the hell was that spa race? Thank goodness we are in Hungary now, which I am willing to bet will have some good action. I mainly believe this because surprisingly, this title fight between Piastri and Norris seems to be entering its most grueling stages now. While you may have watched the Belgian race and think nothing of it since it was a pretty slam dunk victory for Piastri, let's not forget, Lando was pushing him towards the end, and in these moments, you need to stay focused and not make any crucial mistakes. And shit, this is Lando Norris we're talking about. But while Piastri has been the more clean and consistent driver, he is susceptible to making stupid mistakes as well, like when he brake checked the field under safety car for vibes and for no real advantage. So both drivers in the past two races have made extremely crucial mistakes, and if there is a place that can either amplify these things or make them boil over, it would be here in Hungary. Aside from all the shenanigans last year with Lando being guilt tripped to give up his win, this track just has the criminal element, man. Like, you look at the layout and question why this track is so good in the first place, but it has nothing to do with the layout. The reason why this race is so good is because drivers love losing it here. For some odd reason, drivers either activate their sixth sense and become gods here, or they get lobotomized and drive so insanely stupid. And the racing here is genuinely peak as well, since despite what I said about the layout not looking good, it is good since this track is actually pretty high speed, which of course makes the drivers more susceptible to critical mistakes, like last year with Oscar when he was trying to chase Lando back. Plus, the track has corners where it is wide but quickly closes up, like in turn 1, where it could cause some chaos and crashes, similar to Verstappen's assassination attempt on Lewis last year. So we have a great track here, a good storyline to follow in the standings, and the sweet cherry on top, rain could fall here once again this week, and we know rain loves this track. So enough yapping, guys. Let's go recap the weekend and find some winners and losers from it. So go join the Discord to experience the weekends live, and subscribe if you're new if you hate dictators. So enough yapping, and let's get to quacking.
See those clouds up in the corner? That's where the rain is coming from.
As always, we have Wednesday and Thursday to recap, and for the fourth goddamn week in a row now, we have an update regarding Max and his future. Don't worry though, since we finally have an answer about his whereabouts for next season. I am happy to report that he will be staying with Red Bull for the 2026 season. Obviously, no way you lot actually believed he would go to Mercedes, since why would they do that? George is wicked fast and a champion level talent, and Kimi, while he is struggling right now, is still the illegitimate child of George and Toto, and he needs their support right now. So yeah, shame on all of you Mercedes people. However, I don't blame you for believing this, since this weekend was the first time he straight up said, I will stay at Red Bull, so maybe the talks were a real thing after all. No matter though, he is going to stay as a Red Bull driver for next year, but if you know anything about me at all, you will know I'm still believing he'll retire at the end of the season, but that's beside the point. The other news this week was regarding Ferrari, and it's actually good news. Or maybe not, I don't know. It was announced on Thursday that Fred Vasseur will stay as our team principal for next year, which seems to be the obvious choice since it's new regs next year and changing leadership sounds as stupid as it does, so good move Ferrari. However, I would be lying if I said I don't have my doubts with Fred. I mean, he definitely brought the team back up to being serious contenders after Binotto, which is great, but I'm struggling to see how he could take the team to higher places. I still definitely think he needs more time, but if the 26 era isn't looking too good by like 2028, I feel, then maybe he should go. Just not for Horn Dog, for fuck's sakes. Anyways, one final bit of news today is that it was announced Alonso would miss at P1 thanks to a back injury, which 1 does confirm he's in his 40s, 2 means Drugovich will fill in for him, and 3 could maybe mean he misses this weekend as a whole, so let us see. Anyways, we now have Friday starting with FP1 and FP2, so let's see how things are looking. Before FP1 got underway, it would be reported that Paul Aron would sub in again for Hulkenberg this session, which, if the last time they did this, which was in Silverstone, is anything to go by, maybe a good weekend is ahead for Hulk. Now for FP1, and yeah, it was a practice session, all right. I mean, all these things play out similar, so there's really nothing to talk about here. We had many drivers going off and especially locking up their tires, which is to be expected. What maybe wasn't though are regarding two teams to no one's surprise, Mercedes and Red Bull. Mercedes struggled in this session and after Canada really, since they just have no pace. Plus their car is starting to seem difficult to drive since George cannot get into his groove anymore, and goddamn Kimi, man, I'm so sorry. They're reverting some parts for him this weekend, which maybe maybe could get him back happy in the car, but I don't know just yet. However, a team that seems to be struggling more than Mercedes were Red Bull, since they also look all over the place, especially Max, since you know it's bad when his teammate is within a tenth of him. That Red Bull car just seems to have no balance, which they could definitely find, but given how tricky that car is looking right now, I'm holding my breath. Anyways, for the teams that do look good, Ferrari seems to be looking pretty decent here, especially with Charles, and McLaren obviously look dominant here. It was kind of expected that they would look great here since this track loves balance more than anything, but I'm still holding out for a Hamilton pole. Anyways, now moving on to FP2, and everything that I discussed in FP1 will largely stay the same. McLaren are still very dominant, Ferrari are thereabout, and Mercedes and Red Bull are found dead in a ditch, especially Verstappen, since genuinely, Yuki looks a bit faster and he's barely in the top 10. Max is really struggling in that car, so he copes like all teenage boys do and goons in the car, but forgets to throw out the jizz towel beforehand, so he quite comically has to throw in the towel in the middle of the track. Can't wait to see how he gets pulled from here. Anyways, the only real difference this session would be the Aston, since they look real competitive for qualifying in the race, which, if you know anything about this team, then you know they'll get on Q1 and score P9 at the maximum. Aside from that though, there were no real major moments until the end of the session where Lando wants to get some points back Lewis Hamilton style and decides to take out his competition, but this silly goose forgot that points are scored on Fridays. Save it for Sunday, lads, come on, game on. But now we have FP3 on Saturday along with qualifying, so let's see how tomorrow goes. Do not disappoint me, Ferrari. Thankfully, Ferrari don't actually look too bad since FP3 showed us that Charles and maybe Lewis are nice and comfy in the car, which gives me good optimism for the quali and race, but McLaren are still like 4/10 ahead. Yeah, the session also showed us that McLaren are just in a league of their own in this race, which was to be expected, but man, let a man dream sometimes, okay? Anyways, other than those two, Kimi genuinely seems happier in the car again on his old spec, which probably isn't good for Mercedes. At Red Bull, well, maybe we should leave them alone. Aston, however, looked to be really good along with every midfield team really, so I think we could have a really exciting qualifying session here for the most part, so let's begin with Q1. There is a slight threat of rain for qualifying, however, I think the rain falling has the same chance of Red Bull winning the race on Sunday, so we should not have to worry about that. The track, however, is colder than usual, which does catch some drivers off guard, but nothing too crazy has happened so far. However, with the track colder, you know exactly who this brings to the front. It's genuinely hilarious how Mercedes just cold max and it pays off every single time. This is not a good thing, by the way. Anyways, the session ends really weird. Albon is last, Hulk is 19th, Ocon is 18th, Gasly has been out-qualified in 17th, and Yuki is in 16th. Which I guess isn't too strange, but we definitely have some weird results, so maybe, just maybe, McLaren will not be on pole. Anyways, now for Q2, and rain is falling down now, which will completely scramble up the grid depending on how hard it falls and who sets their dry lap first. And of course, these guys are bunched up in the pit, so this could be crazy. Or not, since in typical F1 fashion, the rain, I guess, will just bother nature's pre-cum since the rain instantly ended and things immediately went back to normal. However, what wasn't normal is Go and Baby Go out in this session, and with Kimi, he had track limits and set his final lap on used tires, which makes no sense for him, but with Lewis, why man? Why must you do your best Checo impression? Enough with the comebacks, man. Enough. Please lock in or get out of my team. I gotta take a breather now, and what better way to take a breather than with Q3, and the first run show us what we expected, with the McLaren drivers being a tenth away from each other and everybody else fighting for either P3 or P6. What was not expected at all though, is George pushing the McLarens for pole since he was on a genuine pole lap before a snap killed it at the final corner. So it's game on now with the final run, and Aston set their laps first, which are competitive enough to split the McLarens with Alonso and be fourth with Stroll. However, everyone improves. Russell goes to fourth, Norris goes to third, Piastri goes to second, but who got pole? Max? Nah, Charles Leclerc. Now, truthfully, that car is second fastest, but it ain't pole position fastest. Yet Charles pulled it off while his teammate, who was allegedly going to slap him up this season, qualified a measly 12th position in the pole lap car. Stop with the talks. They're done between these two. So I am on cloud 9 right now, but we got to get back down to earth since now we have Sunday, race day. Unfortunately, no rain would fall, which might actually be a great thing, but the race would start with no problems, thankfully. So, lap 1 begins, and Lando gets a good start, but Pastry cockblocks him, which drops him down to 5th, and allows Charles to stay in the lead. Also, since it's pretty cold today, Russell is having a great race since he's up to 3rd and staying relatively close to Piastri, while the midfield guys move up or down. Many laps pass by with little to no action, which is probably to be expected in these Hitler regulations, but we do approach the pit window now for some guys, which should see the driver start pushing now, or during the strategy game since Oscar now pits to overtake Leclerc, who is still somehow leading the race, which causes Ferrari to do the same, but they cover off McLaren. Regarding the other McLaren though with Norris, call him Plankton, the way this man is cooking nothing but shit since this man is struggling hard behind Russell or just managing super hard on his tires. I don't know, these teams love lying. Anyways, with not much action so far, Russell decides maybe it's time to spice things up since he almost does a Norris, but isn't that stupid to still go through with the move. Speaking of Norris though, he goes on to a 1-stop since the top 2 are on the 2-stopper, which could maybe be the winning move since we know dirty air is the biggest factor now in these cars, which yeah, now that we're on this topic, this race sucks more than my eldest son. All the cars are close, but they're not closing up, if that makes sense. And man, if it weren't for Charles and Pastry fighting, I would be sleeping so beautifully right now. Also, Max and Lewis almost crashed, but this is such a nothing incident, so I'm not going to talk about this at all. Anyways, now for the second stops, and Piastri masturbates Leclerc into the pits, which now means he will get ahead when Piastri pits, but Piastri will have the fresher tires, not to mention Lando on the 1-stop, so this is shaping up to be a real exciting end to the race. Or not, since goddamn Ferrari put Charles on a horrible strategy with the car issue, which now means he got blitzed past Piastri and might lose the podium to Russell after looking set to win the damn race. Charles, please, if you could listen to me, do yourself a favor and save yourself. We don't deserve you. Ferrari do not deserve you. Please save yourself. Anyways, now we have a battle between the 7 out of 10 drivers, with Piastri catching up to Norris, still on the 1-stopper. And while we see them catching up, Russell is now pressuring Leclerc, who's managing a car issue, and after some really great hard racing, Russell is now ahead and on the podium. You know, if it had to be someone, at least it's you. Now we have the McLaren boys fighting each other and in traffic, which if Austria is anything to go by, Norris should win this, but strategies are different, so maybe we could have a fight. Piastri is also getting real desperate at the lunges, and on the final lap, Lando manages to stay ahead, which means Lando comes through to win the race despite not really doing a single thing. At least he managed the tires well. Alrighty people, now for the winners and losers, and as always, losers first, and we have Red Bull. Where do I start? Now the weekend's beginning wasn't too strange truthfully, since so many times have they looked slow in practice, only to show up for Saturday and Sunday, but this weekend was clearly not the case. When they were slow in practice, that was genuine, no sandbags were involved whatsoever, and guys, I'm speechless. I really don't know what to say about this since this is so unnatural. I mean, maybe it was expected since you look at years like 24, 23, and 22, and that car definitely was slower here, but not this slow, nowhere near. Again, I really have nothing to say here other than I hope Mekis and the entirety of the team can identify the problem and fix it relatively soon, since something tells me a weekend like Hungary will not be a one and done thing for Red Bull this year. I would fear tracks like Singapore and Zandvoort, so let us see how Red Bull could potentially come back from this horrible weekend. Next up is Williams, who also like Red Bull just had no answer. Now this one was to be expected since Albon and Sainz both said that they would fail this weekend, but still, a slow car getting a bad result deserves this placement here. Albon especially was pretty bad this weekend since my man was jerking off with the other back markers when just last week he was kicking it with the point scorers. Meanwhile, Sainz really didn't perform too dissimilar this week since all season long this man is between P10 and P16, so nothing really out of the ordinary for him. Like I said, the team did expect to be here for this week, so it's not as bad as Red Bull, but still, even if they knew they would be bad, that won't stop me from calling them losers, so welcome to the losers bracket, Williams. Next is Ocon, who genuinely had no response for Ollie this week. Now, Ollie himself didn't do too extraordinary, however, he did what was asked of him. Compare that to Esteban. Really, the past couple of weeks, he has been behind Ollie, and it's unfortunate since we have seen Ocon cook in this car along with Ollie, but recently, it's been a bit of a one-man team. I have no doubt that this is just bad form, but it is pretty bad form, which doesn't inspire hope in me, but maybe the summer break is all he needs. I don't want to make it sound like he was so terrible this week, because he wasn't, but he just didn't do enough for Haas this week, which is why he's here. Haas are still my goats though. Moving on, I have Lewis Hamilton, and they tried telling me this guy would immediately make Ferrari his home. This pains me to say since I have been a Lewis fan since 2016, but truthfully, man, it's over. Slapped up by George, slapped up by Charles. Enough, man, take the hint. Sure, you can still do good here and there, but if you need so much adjustment and special little things in the car added, just stop, man. Stay until 2026. See if it really was just the regulations, but if nothing improves for 2026, just retire, man. It doesn't help that this guy's been to the Lando Norris School of Interviews, since this man constantly beats himself down in the interviews, and it's like, no wonder this guy sucks. Maybe don't tell yourself you're shit all the time, and maybe you'll be happier and more confident in the car. It sucks too, because the aura of Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari is amazing, and to be honest, this pick will go down in F1 history, but his stint at Ferrari will be forgotten about if nothing changes. I want him to be good at the team, but this team has my priority over its drivers, and if one of them is holding us back, then I need him gone no matter who it is. Please, Lewis, please prove me wrong. It's all I ask of you. Next up, I have Alpine. I mean, this one is simple. The team sucked in qualifying, and the race didn't inspire much hope in me or humanity in its entirety. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but yeah, I don't know what to say. Guarantee you that in Zandvoort, these guys will be top 10 contenders and then horrible again in Monza. I'm just so done with this team and their strategy. I just don't care anymore. And finally, I have Ferrari. I normally rate these guys by the entire weekend, but I'm sorry, the race was just that horrible. Time after time, Charles puts up generational performance after generational performance and is given absolutely nothing thanks to his team's incompetencies. They either put him on horrible strategies, give him a car issue, or both, and I am sick and tired of it. I am more than Ferrari. I am 20 years old. I'm an aspiring adult. I'm employed. I go to college. I have friends. I am more than this team. My life has more meaning than Ferrari. I am more than this team. Anyways, now for the winners, and I start with McLaren. To absolutely no one's surprise, they still won no matter what happened. I'm sure these guys could finish dead last and still win by 10 seconds. These guys had no excuse to not be 1-2 for the qualifying, yet they failed. Obviously, they 1-2'd the race, but they need to stop relying on the car for them to be taken seriously. It's a big part why no one cares about the title fight this season, since these guys can drop mid-performance after mid-performance, but yet still win. I'm not saying they perform mid in Hungary, since they were really good in the race, but I am saying in most weekends, you just get the feeling there is more to be desired from them. No matter though, we just have to cope and seethe, so congratulations to McLaren. Next up is Charles, who I just don't have any words for anymore. I really hate to use the dreaded I word, but if Charles had that McLaren or a near equal car less than a 10th within it, Charles will be dancing off in the sunset with the title. He has had poor races this year, very poor indeed, but he has been one of the fastest drivers this year, and I would go as far to say that the car he's driving right now is slower than the SF23, which was mid as hell for the majority of the season. Charles just keeps finding pace out of his behind every week, and it's becoming embarrassing what he's doing to Lewis. I am just hoping and praying Ferrari next year is competitive. Otherwise, I'm begging Charles to leave this team. He cannot waste his talent at this red shithole of a team. So please, Charles, start prioritizing yourself, not the team. Next, we have Aston Martin, who really backed their words up. Alonso at the end of Belgium, where Aston were gooning instead of going, said in Hungary they would be very fast, and this man did not lie. While qualifying could have been a bit better had they not gone so early, they still showed so much pace that translated in the race. Plus, even aside from Alonso doing well with the halfback injury, Stroll was locking in this weekend. He did nothing offensive or abhorrent. This man, for once, finally decided to use a talent we know he has and lock in. Appreciate this while you can, folks, since I would imagine in typical Stroll fashion, this guy will go back to his usual shenanigans in Zandvoort, so don't get your hopes up too high. However, if Aston could keep that pace all the way to the end, then I could totally see a couple of podiums for them, which would be absolutely amazing. Also amazing were Racing Bulls, and they were very delightful. It is great to see Liam back fully in his confidence after the horrible beginning of the year, and now this team is serious yet again with two drivers fighting for good points. To be honest, if I were a Red Bull fan, I would just abandon them and support the juniors, since this team really is the promotion. Why support Max dying in 6th when you can support Isaac and Liam flourishing in P7 and P8? They looked real fast and competitive throughout, and this is just lovely to see. So yeah, good job juniors. pray you never get to call up to Red Bull. Finally, we have Gabby, who once again performed amazingly. His start of the year was really bad if we're being honest, but he has since locked in and is now contender for best rookie of the season. What really makes his results sweeter in my opinion isn't the fact that it's in a Sauber, which doesn't really matter anymore since Sauber is a good car now. It's that he's doing it against Hulkenberg. Sure, Hulk is still maybe better on race days, but Gabby is probably faster now over one lap. And reminder, this is against Hulk, the man who was known for being a quality master. So this is real encouraging stuff. And it's not like he hates Hulk and is like trying to beat him every week. No, Hulk is probably one of his best mentors right now, and I just couldn't think of a better teacher for Gabby. So let's see how long this great form can continue, and maybe it will become class. Now for my bonus category, and I have the most hungry driver who really wanted it the most, and I have Max. And that hog of a car, he still fought for 9th, and if in a full intact car he gets 9th compared to 9th in the damaged RB16B, then Red Bull got some issues to figure out. Finally, let us see how my predictions and bingo card ended up. My quality predictions were really not that bad since I did say a Ferrari would be on pole. My race predictions were completely wrong though, thanks to Ferrari. My random prediction was also wrong since we can't have any fun. Your predictions were way too optimistic about Max, which can't really say I blame you, he's normally good around here. And finally, my bingo card is without any update, and those were my winners and losers from the Hungarian Grand Prix. Overall, I'm enjoying this season, and it's title fight which sooner or later will boil over as the end of the season approaches, and personally, I'll be sat front row for that mess. But this track is nice and the weekends here are always enjoyable for me, so I'm happy. But now we have the summer break and I will be releasing lots of videos that are fun and different, so stay tuned for those. This first half has been good, and let's just hope that the second half is even better. Anyways, I want to give a quick shout out to all members of the flock for their continued support. Make sure to join if you want cool benefits as well as just helping me out. Anyways, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe since it helps me out. And make sure to let me know in the comments who your winners and losers were. And as always, have an amazing day.
Good weather for the duck.